Hey guys, Majin Obama here, and I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what's going on with the Tekken World Tour. It's winding down. This is pretty much the last weekend of Challenger events. There are two this weekend, one in Greece, one in South Africa. Then we have a week break where Red Bull Golden Letters will go down in London. And then the weekend after that will be the final master event on the Tekken World Tour in Thailand. Yes, it's going to be Tiger Uppercut. Similar to what happened towards the tail end of Tekken 7's Tekken World Tour, the race at the very tail end of the leaderboard is becoming pretty tight. And if you guys don't know, if you haven't been keeping up, the way this works is, and the format has changed a little bit this year, so we'll talk about that. But basically, the top 20 players on the global leaderboard who have gotten points from various Master, Master Plus, Challenger, and Dojo events throughout the year on Tekken World Tour, they're going to be competing in the main event, in the final, that'll happen in Shibuya in Tokyo in early December. But there is an additional caveat to this year's format, and that's the regional leaderboards. So not only are the top 20 players present on this list that finish at the top of the leaderboards going to be there, but the regional leaderboard, which is determined by a lot of the regional sub-events and dojo events, which are at this point decided, right? These are basically locked. These players, there are quite a few of them too. This is a relatively new addition to the format, and it's, to be honest with you, a little bit convoluted. This is like a hard to look at chart, and it definitely made things a little bit more difficult, a little bit more complicated than it was before. But the cool thing is there is going to be some representation from some of these regions where players maybe weren't able to globetrot as easily, or, you know, things of that nature. In the event that the top finisher in a region is one of the qualified players on the global leaderboard in the top 20, then that spot gets handed down to the next highest person. So this is interesting, especially in the case of a region like Japan, where first place was Chicker and he finished with 570 points, Double finish was 535 regional points, Nobi with 520, Rangshu with 480 regional points. All four of those players are in the top 20. So that means the regional point leaderboard spot for the Japan region gets handed down all the way to Shonen, who's currently at 5th place, and he'll be at Red Bull Golden Letters in just a couple weekends. Suffice to say, yeah, there's going to be a lot more players traveling to the final who are a part of the final event for that reason, beyond even the LCQ. But let's take a look at some of the scenarios and some of the situations that some of the players who are going to be competing this weekend and at Tiger Uppercut find themselves in. What you have to remember about the way points are calculated, this is a very important chart here. What you're mostly going to be focusing on is the Master category for Tiger Uppercut. And for the Challenger events, Clash of the Olympians in Greece and Cape Town Showdown in South Africa that are going to be going down this weekend, they are beholden to this Challenger category. But here's the thing that you have to remember. Top Master Plus placement, you only get one for your point total. That contributes to your point total. Your highest placings for all these events are what count. And that's going to be important for some of these players. Your top 2 Master placements, your top 3 Challenger placements. What that means is, for some of these players, we're now at the tail end of the tour for this year, their ability to gain points in Thailand is already nerfed. On top of the fact that Thailand is probably at this point, one of the more notorious events on the tour, just because there are so many direct flights to a lot of competitive regions for this game. Pakistani players are able to travel there pretty easily, and this is shown over the years as well to be true. Close proximity to regions like Japan and Korea and every other country in between. Philippines, everybody and anybody out here in Southeast Asia, East Asia is at that tournament trying to make something happen. But what makes kind of this tour, I think, a little bit more complex, and don't get me wrong, it's fun, but this is just an element of it that I think is a little bit harder to connect with people, and you have to be really plugged in to kind of get a sense for. To get an idea for what players are on the bubble going into the stretch like this, you have to look at them player by player and look at their historic performances, right? So for example, looking at the leaderboard, Shadow right now, to me, is at the very tip of the danger zone, 1266 points. Lee Mishima from Argentina is right below him with 1260. Farzine, 1215. King Ray Jr., 1160. TBM with 1150. KSK is 10 points out of the bubble. Look at this. 20 points separate 19th from 21st. And then you go down till I'd say about Tibetano is still in the mix as well. But you're mostly focused on like the 16th to the 30th spot. There's not a huge gulf of points here. But the gulf is a little bit larger than what it might first appear. Something that I hope that they change about the tour, I think going the next year, is now, because the tour it was already, I think, a little bit hard to follow without having connective tissue to connect what's actually happening with the tour to the audience. I think when you add on the very awkwardly kind of latched on, tacked on regional leaderboard, now you have to have an eye for dojos, but in every region, and it's like there has to be something there that's going to connect what's actually happening on the tour with the audience that cares about the game. And I think it's a component that's missing right now that could be really useful. But right now, the website is not functioning correctly, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. Basically, Tibetano is in a situation where he needs first or second place at Greece. He's saturated on his master points finishes at 13th. That means the lowest master's point finish that he's had that contributes to his 820 point total. His worst finish is at 13th place. So at 13th at a master event, he is at 90 points. That means 90 points are currently contributing to his total. He basically has to get a top 8 finish or a top 12 finish to even get 30 points. At the hardest event with the most direct flights, it's going to be the last event, so a lot of people are trying to protect their spots and stuff like that. And some players are even looking at it like, oh man, all I have to do is just go to Thailand and win. That's my ticket to the final. You don't want that kind of pressure on you going into that event. Is kind of the theme here. Over the years, there are some players who have been able to make that work for them, but there have been a lot that have not. and I think it's definitely, the numbers are definitely in favor of you do not want that kind of pressure on yourself going into that final event. Which means for Tibetano, he's currently signed for Clash of the Olympians, which is happening this weekend with 161 entrants. Here's just a screenshot of who's going to be there. I think for you to take a look, Ulsan, Kudans, Jonding, Tetsu, King Ray Jr., Mangja, KSK, Tibetano. You can see JDCR is going to be there. Quite a few other names as well. For the sake of the tour and the leaderboard, in Tibetano's case, he's going to need pretty much a first or second place finish at this event in Greece. Kawis, who's just above him at 845 points, he is unsaturated on challenger points, which means everything that he gets from this event this weekend, if he's able to get really far, he's going to get raw point return. And with where he is on the leaderboard, basically you're aiming to get above 1,300 points. If you can somehow get enough points to get over 1,300, because I think with the way it's going to work out, this line right now at 1150, this is likely going to move up to 1250, I think, by the time this is all said and done. We'll see. It depends on results, but it's just a gut feeling. I don't think you really feel good until you're in Jod's position where you have over 1,300. So that's pretty much the goal here for all these players, right? You can look at Clash. There's lots of players here. But for a player like Kawis, who is at the 845 range, he's looking for pretty much, 400 points and some change, right? So him getting a lion's share of that this weekend is going to be a big deal for him and his opportunity. The problem with him, though, is his master point finishes have been excellent, right? He needs pretty much a third place finish in Thailand to put him over even 1250. He's really saturated on his master points and his ability to get gains there. But you look at a player like on the leaderboard, I think going above him, Noel currently isn't registered for any of these events. Maybe he plans to go to Thailand. He pretty much has to go to Thailand and do really well. Without the aid of any of these challenger events, it's going to be kind of tough to make some climbs. Yagami kind of in the same position. I didn't see him in any of the brackets for Clash of the Olympians or for Cape Town Showdown. Then we get to the interesting cases here. The John, Book, and CBM. I want to talk about all of those at once. CBM right now is at 1150 points. Pretty much, he's kind of in a spot where as long as nobody behind you gets in front of you, you know what I mean? But also, he's in a position where he really just needs a little bit more to hit that 1,300, 1,400 point threshold and feel good. So for him, a second place finish in South Africa will likely secure his spot above 1,300 points, but obviously a win will effectively lock him. But the big thing is, of course, like I said, these other players. So for someone like specifically Book and the John, why? Because if you look at Cape Town Showdown, CBM, Book, and the John are all headed there. They're all signed up and planning to go. So it's these three guys who are competing for that one spot, essentially, and they're all going to be at the same tournament. So keep your eyes on what happens in Cape Town Showdown this weekend, because there is a little bit of nuance here. CBM right now is obviously the one with the last guaranteed spot on the 20th spot on the leaderboard, right? For the John and for Book, both of them are sitting at 950 and 1,000 points respectively. But because Book, he doesn't have a lot of challenger event placings, everything he gets this weekend in South Africa is his. So this is a good chance for him to jump up into the 1,300 range if he gets a win, or to cross the 1,200 point threshold and maybe put him in position to where maybe he can make something happen in Thailand, you know? Because right now, the way Book's points are, he pretty much needs a win or second place this weekend in South Africa, and then a 4th place finish in Thailand to get enough points to really get up in there and feel good about his point total. The John is in a similar situation where his master performances this year have been really good. You know, his lowest placement in the master category is 7th place at 150 points. But that's now a problem when you're facing this Thailand tournament. You're like, shit, man, I gotta get 5th place to even get 30 points. You know, that's brutal. That's one reason why this weekend is really important for the John. A win in South Africa for him puts him at 1,250 points, which pretty much puts it to where maybe if he does make 5th place and only gets 30 points in Thailand, that might be enough to keep him in this thing, you know? So for CBM, the John, and Book, all three of those guys are going to be in South Africa this weekend, and they're basically competing for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place, and the order in which they finish could come into play here and make a big difference going into Thailand. What else I'll say is looking at Greece, right? There are a lot of players that are headed here, and numbers-wise, if you take a look, I think there are 131 entrants for Cape Town Showdown in South Africa, 161 for Clash of the Olympians in Athens. And for the players here, there are quite a few of them that are kind of, looking to lock up spots or get some last minute point gains going into this weekend. You got to take a look at specifically Tetsu, John Ding, and K. So Tetsu is an interesting case because Tetsu is really saturated on challenger points. He pretty much needs a 2nd place finish this weekend in Greece to get any kind of satisfactory gain. I think his lowest he's had, I think his point totals right now are a 4th place finish, a 3rd place finish, and a 4th place finish. So that means a 3rd place is only going to get him what? What's the difference between that? If he gets 3rd place in Greece, he gets 30 points. That's brutal. So he pretty much needs at least 2nd place to even get 70 points. Now for him, within his positioning on the leaderboard, putting him at 1,100 before he goes into Thailand, that's good, but it's not quite good enough, He really kind of is in a situation where he needs to pretty much get a win or get 2nd place at minimum and then be able to get some additional points in Thailand, probably make a top 8 at minimum. And that'll probably, we'll develop a conversation from there. For John Ding, right now he's ranked 22nd. A 4th place finish in Greece will put him over 1,300 points. His Masters finishes are really saturated at the 4th place level, which means he needs to get 3rd place in Thailand to get anything. Which again, take a look at the point thing, the point table. If his bottom line is 220 and he gets 3rd place in Thailand, he needs 3rd place to get 80 points. That's not good. So for him, this weekend is really important. Doesn't necessarily have to win, but at least if he can get 4th place in Greece, I think you can consider it a dub for him, K is the one, though, I think you got to watch out for. KSK right now is at 1140. He's 10 points out of the leaderboard, out of the top 20. For him, a 2nd place finish in Greece will put him well over 1,300 points and project him into the above 15th place on the leaderboard, which will be a little bit more comfortable feeling going to Thailand. The problem with him, too, is he has a similar situation as some of these other players where his Masters finishes, he's saturated. He has the most, those 2 really good finishes, with his worst being a 7th place finish, which means, like I said, with some of the other players, he's going to have to finish 5th place, really ideally 3rd place, 2nd place to get any kind of satisfactory point gains there. Your point gain is more limited if you've already been competing in the Masters events throughout the year and you've had some good finishes there. But that's kind of the situation that we're in. Maybe I'll talk a little bit more about this on stream, but I just kind of wanted to share with you guys a little bit about what we're looking at. I had some people asking when I was doing the number crunching and calculations on this, what about Knee's chances? Knee is currently unregistered for Greece. I believe he's unregistered for Greece and South Africa, which means with where he is on the leaderboard currently at 791 points, and here's the kicker, he's pretty saturated on master points. So it's like his worst finish is a 5th place finish. So whatever he makes in Thailand is minus 180 points, which means like he kind of is in a position where at this far out, he's going to have to win Thailand. If he wins Thailand, he might have a shot. And that's going to be depending on some of the other results of some of these other events too. But I think Knee's kind of in a tough position. He might be looking at LCQQ, if you get my drift. We'll see, man. Thailand's a crazy place. Some crazy stuff has happened there over the years. We had Low High's crazy run last year. Atif is shown up there big, and and essentially punched his ticket there time to time. But crazy place, and at the end of the tour, crazy stuff can happen. But what are you guys looking forward to? Is there anybody on this list that you're rooting for, or how has the tour been for you? Have you guys really been paying attention to this level or this aspect of the tour where it comes to point gains and leaderboard positioning? What do you guys think about all this stuff? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll talk to you guys next time.